You know what your problem is in retirement? You're not spending enough. You need to spend more money. Let me give you some words of wisdom. Every month, you should be spending all of the money that you got. Just spend it all. Don't worry. I'm going to show you how today on Straight Talk Wealth. Hey, welcome to another edition of Straight Talk Wealth. I'm your host, Bruce Whitey. I've been doing Straight Talk Wealth radio since 2007, before the real estate bubble really kicked in. And visit us at our website, Straight Talk Wealth. You can get some background on me. I used to broadcast in Dennis Prager's chair back in the, when was it? God, when was we in the early aughts, in the mid-aughts in KRLA. And we have been doing this show on radio. We were around the country, different places. Now you get to see it live right here. Today, you know what I'm talking about? I am talking about you need to spend more in retirement. You're not spending enough money. And I know why. So today, we're going to go through some slides I've prepared out of hundreds of slides I've done with doing public presentations over the years. And I'm going to tell you not only why you should be spending more, but how to do it and how to do it with peace of mind. So that's something we're going to cover right off. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at some reports, some couple government reports just going to peek at that go way back that say the same thing I'm saying. They studied retirement, they looked at the risks, and they say, wow, these seniors aren't spending enough money, and that's why they're having a problem in retirement. There's a hook to it, I guarantee you. But then there's another really, really good study from the Alliance for Protected Income. And they've done a paper here. I've got it on my desk here. I've been studying it. I'm going to go over a little bit with you. It's the Retirement Income Institute. Alliance for Lifetime Income is who they actually are. And their report is called Guaranteed Income, a License to Spend. If you don't believe little simple-minded me, get this report, because this thing is like, oh my God, it's so chock full of scattered charts, and I'll have this available at the link down below. And you should get your own copy of it. And the first half of it's pretty readable. You see all my highlights. And then they get into like algebra and calculus and a lot of stuff that my head spun off and it was sitting on the floor a little while ago. I got it put back on. But the results of it are still nonetheless very interesting. So we'll go over that. But the first thing I want to do with you today is I want to talk about the situation. What are we trying to fix? Why is this important? And let me just say this. There is, in fact, let me go to this here. This is a Wall Street Journal article that was just recently came out. I'm going to cover it more in future weeks in depth. I want to go over what's in this article from the Wall Street Journal. This is sad stuff, and this is why we're talking about this. Now, look, what I'm going to go over today is just as important for people with big portfolios as it is with people that have nothing. We're going to talk about how to stretch a dollar and how to protect the dollars coming into you to make sure they don't run out and that you can spend more of your money with a free heart is what we're talking about. The only reason someone doesn't spend more money is they're worried about running out. So what if we could fix that? That's what we're going to talk about. That's what some of these reports are. But why is that important to wealthy people? It's important because when you have a portfolio that might go up or down or do whatever it's doing, if you're solely going to gauge your outcomes by the growth or the contraction of that portfolio, you've still got the same math that has to be drawn out. And I say this a lot. Let me go back to a basic here. You have these phases of retirement planning. You have accumulation, you have preservation, and then you have withdrawal. And the math in the accumulation phase is really simple. You added so much money, you made so much with growth, or you lost so much with a loss in the market. But it's just money going in. I was up XYZ percent, I was down XYZ percent. Not very relevant in terms of ultimate planning. That's more like investment planning. Retirement planning is a different set of, it's different. It's algebraic, it's calculus, it's logarithmic. Retirement planning takes into consideration, now you're going to spend your money. So how long will you live? Because how long are you going to spend it? You're going to be alive for 3 years? Woo! You're going to be alive for 10 years? You're going to be alive for 30? Maybe you shouldn't retire yet. So there's that math. Then what's the portfolio going to do over time? Is it going to grow or is it going to contract? And what's inflation like? If you decide you can spend, what is your rate of withdrawal? Like how much can you take out of the portfolio? And is that going to inflate over time just due to inflation? Is it going to need to be more? So it's calculus, it's algebra to figure it out. Totally changes. Retirement planning is not investment planning. They're different. And what I suggest is if you have enough investment portfolio that you don't have to have it all planned for retirement, you still have to follow sound retirement planning rules of generating income. And what we do with a lot of our very wealthy clients is we just say, look, have the investment portfolio with a free heart, but let's take the retirement assets, let's squeeze them as tight as we can and make them very, very efficient. And let's lock them out from the vagaries of what the investment portfolio might be doing. So if you don't have much today, you really need to listen up, because this is about, and by the way, let's look at this article here just to go to America's 60-year-olds are staring at financial peril. I want to cover this later, but this triggered me thinking about it when I read this today. I read this earlier. And it's just the second wave of boomers is in so much serious trouble. And some of them are homeless. And we just, man, it took 30 years to wake up from Woodstock. 50 years. 50 years to wake up from Woodstock. And more. 55 years. And a lot of us just didn't really see the future coming. So it's perilous for my generation. That's the setting. We'll talk about that more as a separate thing. But today I want to talk about how to stretch a dollar, how to spend more of your money in retirement and do it safely. I want to look at these studies. I want to talk about what the risks are to doing that. So we're going to dive right into that. But this is kind of the background to it. And what I'm trying to say is this is just as important for people with large portfolios who need to cordon their retirement plan, their retirement income off and protect the rest of the portfolio. So you don't have to spend that, you don't have to sell assets when the markets are down. You've got more flexibility, but you want to cordon that off. So these principles would apply to all of them. All right, I'm going to go right into a PowerPoint that I've I just compiled off of numerous different PowerPoints that we've done along the way. And okay, let's go to the Bob Hope generation here. This is the wealthiest generation. So why were they so wealthy? Well, go have a conversation with a 90-year-old young client. You might learn a few things, 94-year-old, 100-year-old. One is their income retirement was covered for most of them with a pension and Social Security benefits. So many of them had pensions. Some didn't have very good savings, but they had a pension and they had Social Security benefits. So their assets and their savings were considered surplus money back then. So you retired on your Social Security and your pension, but your assets were just surplus money. And that's how you go check with them. And so many of them retired that way. Yes, there was very, very wealthy people. My dad retired very wealthy from Fleetwood Enterprises. They built a big one up, but a lot of his cohorts just worked blue collar jobs and they still retired okay with some confidence. So, and they were still able back then to save some money every month too. So these are the things that kind of made that wealthiest generation have confidence and be able to retire comfortably. So now we have the baby boomer generation. going into retirement. And their challenges are that they have to fill an income gap, as I just mentioned, for an unknown amount of time with a set amount of money. So a lot of them are getting, and we all think we're going to live forever, and like we kind of do, but we don't want to work forever. And some do, some don't. There's nothing wrong with your work, but I'm just telling you what I see. If you want to know the philosophy of my viewpoint, I'm going to work at least till I'm 75. I like what I'm doing. I've seen people retire early and it's not good for their health, but a lot of them still don't want to work as hard. Kevin, if you're watching, I'm talking to you about this. I got a buddy, he's built some great companies. The kids have taken it over, and he's not retired, but like we like to boogie board in the ocean. We like to wake up late. We like to get to the gym. Getting the gym's that's our work. It's the most important thing. And then we get our work done. Now I'm still running a company. I'm very active in it. But the point is, a lot of people my age might, like, it's almost like their new job becomes staying healthy. I kind of think that's the shift. It'd be very interesting to see a study on that. A lot of them don't want to work past 65. I don't know that's the best choice. But when they do retire, their whole thing is like staying healthy, getting on the bike, going out and doing stuff. And my buddy Kevin here we talk every day on the phone, and his day is usually like figuring out what else he's got, whether he's going to the doctor or whether he's going to work out in the gym, or he's going to go rock climbing, or he's going to go boogie boarding. So the point is that not everybody is choosing to work later. They are living longer, but they're not necessarily choosing to work later. So a lot of people are still hitting 65, 68, somewhere in there, and they just have a set amount of money. And unlike the Bob Hope generation, who had streams of money, the pension was a pool amongst all the workers in a huge union. Boomers are retiring with a chunk of money and then trying to figure out, how do I live on this? That's a key difference that we want to talk more about today. So that presents the three greatest risks. The first risk is longevity risk. Let's go back on that. I want to talk about that before I go on to the next slide. Let's just talk about longevity risk. So we're just, when they started Social Security at 62, back in the 30s, when they created Social Security, and you could collect it at 62, men didn't live past 66. So if you waited to 65, you could have your maximum, and you lived for a year and you died. So what's happened now is that people are living so much longer, and I think I have some stats on this, on longevity, that it's just changed everything. A 5-year retirement is now up to a 35-year retirement. Retire at 65 and live to 100. It's not uncommon anymore. So longevity has its own peculiarity of like, how do you manage for that? I mean, I always said this for decades. I've worked my butt off for 30 years to pay the bills while I'm working, let alone now I'm going to not work for 30 years and pay the bills. That's longevity. Sequence risk. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. This is a big risk of whether the market is climbing when you retire or whether it's falling when you retire and you need income. Now, a falling or rising market over time of just buy and hold doesn't matter. I'm going to show you the stats on this. It doesn't matter. But once you start taking income, the behavior of the market is incredibly magnified. And this is a problem. We'll look at it in a minute. And the other thing is withdrawal rate risk. How much should you be taking? Where do you start? Now, there's this rule we're going to look at it called the 4% rule, which says you should start with 4% a year of your portfolio as an acceptable amount to begin withdrawing, with some increases for inflation. Good idea, bad idea. Can we do better? I really, really want you to pay attention to this, because I'm going to show you some stuff you don't know, and it will blow your mind by the end when we talk about withdrawal rate risk. No one would dare in their right mind pull 7% of a portfolio, start retirement with 7% of your portfolio coming out. I mean, what? That's like 13 years and you're out of money. You've spent all your money. Well, maybe it'll grow some. Maybe it'll shrink some. How are you going to know? Well, I'm going to show you how you can guarantee doing it and do it with safety. And it will defeat longevity risk and it will defeat sequence of returns risk. So now I'm going to talk about sequence of returns first. And this is a burgeoning and actually very much spoken about retirement risk these days from a lot of advisors. So I can't imagine I'm the first one presenting this to you, but we do it in some seminars and I'm still surprised to find that people don't understand this. The theme of this risk is the difference a few bad years can make. And this is really, really important in terms of market performance and what you're going to get out of your portfolio to spend. All right, so what we have here is we have the actual S&P 500 annual performance for 10 years that went from 2007 to 2017. And there's nothing really significant about this except that we had at least one good, really bad year in there. Really, really good, bad year. So this is in 08, we had the market crash. And then we had the market rebound and the market came back strong and it did less strong, but it came back. It was positive. All the rest of the years here for this 10-year period, we just had one bad year. Okay. So that was an average 8.5% return. When you average all those years together, you got an 8.5% return. Now let's do a trick here. Let's take the worst year that you had, negative 37. Let's say that the order of growth of those years was worst to best, and the 32.39 is the last year. So think about this. What would your average rate of return been then? Would have been the same. And the fact is that if your money was in that portfolio behaving like that, you would have wound up with the same amount of money in your portfolio from sequence 1 as sequence 2. Would have been the same amount. Here's another sequence. Starts high and ends at the bottom. It's still 8.5% average rate of return, and you would have wound up with the same investment outcome. So the sequence of what the market's going to do when it does it, if you're not taking money out of a portfolio, doesn't freaking matter. Okay. Now, sequence of returns matters in this regard. Just cut the slide out. No impact when reinvesting your gains. If you're just reinvesting your gains and you're not adding new investments, so we're not dollar cost averaging here. We just have a wad of money, we let it go through these gyrations, then the sequence of the returns doesn't matter. But it has a big impact when you're adding to investments or you're taking distributions. Now, adding to investments gets into what's called dollar cost averaging, and I'm not going to cover that here, but I'm going to talk about taking distributions. So in hypothetical case 1, let's start with an up market. So the first year, the market is up 27%. Then it's down, then it's up 9, then it's up 7, and it ends on a down. So we're just going to take these 4 years and we're going to sequence them in different ways. Now, we have $1 million portfolio, and the annual returns of the portfolio are going to be 27 up, 9 up, 7 up, 15 down. Our annual withdrawals are going to start at 5% withdrawals, and we're going to adjust them upward 3.5% each year for inflations. And the withdrawals are going to be at the end of the year. So at the end of year 1, when you've made your 27%, you're now going to take $50,000 out. And at the end of year 2, when you've made your 9%, we're going to take $50,000 plus 3.5% for inflation. So that's sequence 1. Sequence 2, sequence 1 looks like this. You will take that money out and it will last for 36 years if you're retiring in an up market with high returns early on. That'll last you 36 years. Good planning. Now, look, Let's be real though. If you get to these and you have any health left in you, it's scarier than all get out. You don't really want to see your portfolio do this. But the point is, if you did, this is how long it would last. Now, let's take sequence 2. We're going to reverse it. We're going to start the same withdrawal pattern, but we're going to start it in a down market and then 7, 9, and 27. We just reversed the returns. In that case, doing the same thing, that portfolio would last 23 years instead of 37 years. So that is a 13-year difference. I guess 23 years versus 36 or something. It's a 13-year difference. Now, once you're retired, running out of money 13 years earlier than you would have, that's a big deal. Doesn't matter if you're in your 30s or 40s, maybe even 50s, but to be living on that money and had made a goof, hit the banana peel. We had the wrong years. And now, this could have been, for example, and we've run this. I have this slide somewhere. I have to bring it up on another show. It could have been the older brother retired at the beginning of the tech bubble, and the younger sister retired the last year of the tech bubble or the real estate bubble. It only takes 1 or 2 years difference to kill 13 years off your retirement. When you look at the potentiality of how fast markets can fall, and you can be in an up market and think you're in an up market, but if it turns on you early on, you're a goner. And we had a scenario with a brother and sister that were like 5 years apart, and tremendous utter difference in their portfolios just because of being in the wrong year. So this matters. Sequence of return risk, or sequence risk, it's also called sequence of return risk, is the risk of receiving lower or negative returns early in a period when withdrawals are made from an individual's underlying investments. The order or the sequence of investment returns is a primary concern for retirees who are living off their income and capital of their investments. Okay? Now, where we're going on this is I'm going to show you how to protect on this. Where we're going on this is all about how much can you spend. And I want to make you understand that we can help you spend much more than you probably dreamed of. Wait till the end here, because I'm going to show you some ledgers that'll blow your mind on what we do every day around here. And I'm sorry people don't know this. Okay. Now, when we look at longevity, longevity is the other factor. Remember, we had like 3 factors. It was how much you're withdrawing, the rate of withdrawal. We had sequence of returns risk, and we had longevity risk. All right, 25% chance a couple will live to 98 years old, or at least one of them. And the thing you need to know about lifespan in the US is when you're born, there's a certain lifespan. I don't know what it is now, 72, 77, something like that. But assuming you've lived to 65, now your lifespan projection is way further out. So if a couple are 65 years old and you're a male, let's see, we're looking at this many will live to 89, this many will live to 94, and this many will live to 100. Okay, so about 50%, here's the line, 50% will live to 89 of men once they've hit age 65. You get to 65, your whole lifespan is protracted outward from what it was when you were born. We lose a lot of teenagers. They do stupid things. They cut the mortality rate down. If you're a woman, you have about a 50% chance you're going to live to 90 once you've hit 65. And if you're a couple together, someone's going to live to 94. So anyway, this goes on. 25% chance that a couple is going to live to age 98, one of the two of them. Average male, 25% chance they're going to live to 94. Average female, 25% chance they're going to live to 96. But somehow or other, it changes out when you're a couple. I don't know how that math changes, but someone in a couple have a chance of living to age 98. Now, here's a thing to understand about longevity. If you're not familiar with Tom Hagnon, great author, real good books on retirement. We work a lot with the concepts that Tom works with. And he wrote in one of his books, "The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow doesn't exist." This is his book down below. I'm reading this. Pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow does exist, just like a happy retirement without income. That was a 2014 book he wrote. He's done some better books more lately. Not better, just more. He's got a lot of good books. Although everyone wants to live a long life, longevity is not just a risk. It's a risk multiplier of other risks in retirement. Market risk. Is the market going to go up or down, and how's it going to perform for you? Withdrawal rate risk. How much can you take out? Sequence of returns risk we just covered. Inflation, deflation, increasing taxes, long-term care. Longevity risk is hands down the number one risk in retirement, because the longer you live, the more likely the market will crash. The longer you live, the more likely you will withdraw too much money. The longer you live, the more likely inflation will decimate your purchasing power. The longer you live, the more likely you will need long-term care. To retire successfully, you must take longevity risk off the table. That's what I'm telling you today. Most people manage longevity risk by restricting their spending. You don't need to do that. That's the wrong approach. That's trying to manage your portfolio for this risk of longevity. And it is not the right approach. You're going to have to shift that risk somewhere and get someone else to take that risk. Your Uncle Louie, he's doing fine. Uncle Louie, look, if I live to 85, you're going to help me out, right? Get him to agree to it, you're fine. If you don't have an Uncle Louie, keep watching. All right, so this was an interesting study that was done, I think, by the MetLife Mature Markets Institute, and it was a little while ago. But we definitely find that these truths have been holding through for a whole generation. They asked people, first of all, they surveyed who feels confident in their retirement, and they found an isolated group of people that said, "I'm very confident about my retirement." So then they asked them, why? What were your reasons for feeling confident? Now, 3% were miscellaneous. 26%, go back on this for a second. I want you to think about this for a minute. Why do you think that people who said they were confident felt that way? Why do you think they said that? Just wanted you to get that in your head. Well, 26% said they can work if they need to. Now, I find that a little weird. I'm confident in my retirement because I know I can go back to work. I guess in a convoluted way that could make some sense. In another way, sounds like schizophrenic. Okay. All right. Others said that they could liquidate their assets. So what that means is they've got solid assets. They've got things that they own, might be a second house, a vacation home. We could liquidate that if we want. Me and the missus could, maybe in our 80s or 90s, we could give up the vacation home. Maybe it's gold bars in the attic. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's some hard asset that they can liquidate that gave them a feeling of confidence. Other ones, 51% said they just had sufficient savings. They've saved enough. So drum roll. What do you think the number one reason that seniors who felt confident said they were confident? It's because they had a guaranteed stream of income. This goes back to that Bob Hope generation that we started with. They started out, they didn't necessarily have lots of assets. They didn't necessarily think they were going to go back to work, but they had a pension that was a pooled risk amongst all the pensioners. Some people died early and they didn't even get the money back out of the pension that they paid in, while the others, if they lived a long life and all the money they ever put in the pension was gone and they had collected it, they were still getting checks. And by and large today, we still find that having a guaranteed stream of income is the number one reason why people who are confident in retirement feel that confidence. So think about this. Spending with confidence in retirement. Here's grandma, and grandma wants to go on a trip around the world. But before she goes on that trip, what is she going to be asking herself? What can I do with this? I'm retired. I have fixed income. Can I spend $10,000 on it? Can I spend $20,000 on the trip? Can I spend $50,000? Now, if you have a portfolio that's constantly fluctuating, how the heck would you know? Okay, so you got $50,000 this year, and then how much next year, and I might lose some in the market, and it might go up more, and I could have spent more. How can you know that? If all the other factors are in motion, how can you know if you don't know how long you're going to live? And your longevity risk is multiplying all these other risks. How does grandma spend with confidence? So let's talk about who does spend with confidence. Hey, we covered a lot of information today. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back next week, and I'm going to finish this off. I appreciate you being here so long. Listen, here's what we're going to cover next week. And I'm just thumbing through. It's already been recorded. I just don't want to overbear the time here. So we're going to take a half hour today. We've covered the problem. Next week, all about solutions on this area of how to get you spending more money. We're going to look at determining your income need. That's one section we're going to go over. We're going to look at how much can you take as a withdrawal rate and make it sustainable over a lifetime. That's really, really key in terms of what can you spend? How much can you spend? We're going to look at that. We're going to look at how to greatly increase that. And I'm going to show you first of all, we're going to cover the government reports that were done a while ago. I mentioned earlier in this show, we're going to go over several reports on how to increase income that the government wants you to know and that the Alliance for Protected Income also wants you to know. So we're going to cover that. And then I'm going to go over some specific case studies where we could get people from a hopeful 4% withdrawal per year to a for sure 7% withdrawal per year, maybe even up to 10, and not look back, to do it with peace of mind and confidence. We're going to cover that in the next episode. So wherever you're getting your Straight Talk Wealth, whether it's on our email list, if you're not on our email list, go to our website, straighttalkwealth.com, and get on our email list so we can send you new episodes in your email, or however, sometimes we text, might see it on YouTube. Watch for the next one. We should have it out within a week. We will cover all the issues. It's already been recorded. I'm just going to bring up to date. Now, there's some links underneath here that I will have some of the info that we've covered. So wherever you're seeing this, look at the links, take advantage of those, and listen. We're in a time, markets are changing, everything's changing. The stuff I'm showing you today is the best time ever to take advantage of it because of high interest rates. We expect interest rates to start to fall. The markets are crunching now under these high interest rates and the fear of recession. It's going to bring interest rates down, and it's going to cripple us a little bit on how much we can deliver. They will still be good deals, but they won't be as good as today. So get moving on this. Contact us. Let us put something together and figure out how to maximize your income in retirement. That's what we do, and we do it with peace of mind. See you next week. I'll go through all the solutions.